that took precedence over the other ones that he named. So now we're going to get another example. And that's just for someone who may feel as if, well, that is all feast day, the Most High doesn't count any above another, but he does. Right now I want you to go ahead and get 1 Samuel chapter 20. Get 1 Samuel chapter 20 and read verse 18. And then we're going to skip down to verse 24.
1 Samuel chapter 20 and verse 18.
Actually, yeah, okay, read 18, then read 24.
Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty.
Right, because he was going to go hide in the field. So go ahead and skip down to verse 24.
So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come,
so the new moon came, read.
The king sat him down to eat meat.
The king sat him down to eat meat, sat him down to eat food. So in this case, this food was cooked, prepared, and things of that nature, which on some of the days we can do. And people may say, well, how do you know? Because he stipulates what you can and can't do on particular days. The Sabbath day, what we read, let's go back to Leviticus chapter 23 and read verse 3 again. Then we're going to skip down and we're going to read regarding Pentecost, for example. And we're going to read verse 15 and verse 21.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 3.
Go ahead.
6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein.
Do some work?
Ye shall do no work therein.
Ye shall do no work therein. That's the key thing. Now, let's go ahead and jump down to verse 15, and we're going to read verse 21, and then we're going to jump down to verse 24 and 25. So read verse 15.
And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheep of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
Verse 16.
Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days.
Right, she numbered 50 days. That's why it's called Pentecost. Did he meaning 50? So now, situation, jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21. And ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day, that it may be a holy convocation unto you. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
So it said it's still a holy gathering, but you shall do no servile work therein. So it changes the stipulation. So yes, there's still work that is going to be done, or work that you can do. It was one of the ones that you can do. However, it's dealing with, there's a big difference when it mentions it in Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 3, dealing with the 7th-day Sabbath, when it says no work shall be done. So that's one of the indicators letting you know the 7-day Sabbath, there's a higher regulation. Most High says he doesn't want us doing any work, where these other ones, there's certain work that can be done, there's certain preparation that can be done. So go ahead and jump down to verse 24 and 25.
Verse 24. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation.
Right. So once again, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall you have a Sabbath. So Shabbaton, which is a special day. This is different from when you read in Deuteronomy 16:16 deal with the Cod festival, which is a different type of holy day. So we're here, you're getting Shabbaton 8:7:6:7:7 dealing with a special holy day. Now it says, read it again, verse 24.
Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation.
Right, and that would also be a new moon. But now, read on.
Ye shall do no servile work therein.
Read.
But ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
And those offerings were things that were cooked. When you say you offer an offering unto the Lord made by fire, you're cooking. That was cooking that you would do on those days. So when it's a no servile work, one of the things that you can do is actually cook. Whereas when it deals with the 7-day Sabbath, we should do no work, no cooking is to be done, which he stipulates in other places like in Exodus. You'll find that no cooking is to be done. So you'll have those differentiations or distinctions, and that's how you can determine, okay, this is something the Most High has, as very in high regard of what you can and can't do. And these other ones, not necessarily that the Most High says just allow you to do whatever you want to do, but don't necessarily have all the same stipulations on them as with others. So that's how you treat it, and that's more so when you do the research, what you can and can't do and how the Most High distinguishes his holy days and with his feast days. So, you know, when it comes down to new moon and Sabbath, 7-day Sabbath take precedence over the new moon. That's it.
Next question.
Next question on YouTube reads, is participating and watching yoga against the Bible?
Is participating in the watching of yoga
And watching.
participating and watching yoga go against the Bible?
God.
I'm going to answer that slowly and in parts to make sure I give you the whole understanding of each part of that. Let's get Romans chapter 4 and verse 15 first. And now on 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22.
Romans 4 and 15. Because the law worketh wrath, for where no law is, there is no transgression.
So that's the first thing, is knowing what is the transgression. What makes it wrong? That's what you have to first identify before you kind of just group everything together, that you got to just get rid of all of this. So you have to identify what's wrong with it, what's bad, and then is there anything that is good that one can keep? Are these things fine? So give 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22.
1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 22. Abstain from all appearance of evil.
So that's the other side of it. Anything that may seem evil in your research, that this goes against the laws of the Most High, that you abstain from. And then also, because we're going to go to Sirach chapter 33. Because the other part you have to know is where you stand with things as well. Once you get the book, get Sirach chapter 38 and get verse 28.
Sirach chapter 38 and verse 28.
Read.
The smith also sitting by the anvil.
37 and 28.
Chapter 37 and verse 28. For all things are not profitable for all men. Neither.
That's one of the things. Not all things are profitable for all men. Read verse 27.
My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it.
Right. So now bring in some of those things that I brought out. When you're dealing with yoga, a few things you have to keep in mind. One is some of the cultural practices. Some of these things tie into other deities or gods. That's one thing you have to be careful of in the aspect of auras, chakras, things of that nature, that goes into customs that are not part of Israel and goes against the laws of the Most High if you're dealing with parts that deal with idolatry, as some parts do, depending on how much one may be into some of those arts. The other part of it is that the other side of it is you have, depending on what type of yoga you're doing, exercise, which is nothing wrong with exercise, and then another part of it is meditation. Nothing wrong with meditation. So there's nothing wrong with exercise or meditation, but some of the other religious practices that some do or go ahead with it, that's what you have to be careful with, because there are different facets or sects or types of yoga, and there are different levels of how involved one may be with the particular yoga style that they actually practice. So, and in my research from doing it, it does lead to more gods along the side of Hinduism, things of that nature, certain philosophies, Eastern philosophies that aren't necessarily stipulated in the Bible to be sound doctrine. Things that I can't necessarily say out of the scriptures I would advise for you to really get deep into. So that's why it's to refrain or abstain from any appearance of evil that may seem to go contrary to the scriptures. So dealing with the aspects of other idolatry and idol worship. The other one that we're going to get is, go ahead and get the book of Judith. Get the book of Judith. And let's go ahead and get Judith chapter 9 in verse 2. Because the other aspect of it is dealing with the attire, especially for women wearing of the yoga pants, the practicing, being out in public with just those undergarments on without having a dress over it so that your thighs aren't being revealed. That's another part of it. Get Judith chapter 9 in verse 2.
Verse 2, O Lord God of my father Simeon, to whom thou gavest the sword to take vengeance of the strangers, who loosened the girdle of the maid to defile her, and discover the thigh to her shame.
Discover the what?
The thigh to her shame.
To her what?
Her shame.
So it's shameful to be in a state of situation where you're showing your neck, you're showing your thighs. Those are aspects that are shameful. You're doing that not necessarily through bare skin to skin, but because the clothing is so tight or restrictive, you're seeing the full aspects of curve and how tight and everything as if it was only skin to skin. So that's what makes that part of it wrong in that case. Now, if there's a situation where, hey, if it's just you and your husband, and you choose to stretch, exercise, whatever it is, hey, in your nude or just bra and underwear, whatever it is, shorts, you're in the comfort of your own home to do so. You're not in any sort of transgression. But as far as being amongst other people and you're operating that fashion, then that's when a problem comes in. Because, with just yoga pants, that woman is considered nude, for example. Just like if a man has some short shorts going halfway up his body, he's still revealing his thigh. So those are things where you have to be mindful of those parts of it. And those are the parts that more so make it wrong, dealing with parts of idolatry and parts of revealing or showing your nakedness. But other than just aspects of exercise or meditation, those parts of it, are fine, because those are things that we can deal with are good. So it's just being aware of what parts of it are wrong. So that's it, at least for me in that regard. So unless brother got anything. Oh, lastly, I'm sorry, because he did mention, I don't know if he or she mentioned the aspect of watching or viewing. So the watching or viewing part, I don't know if you mean necessarily in person or, on TV, but it referred back to the same scripture that I gave in 1 Thessalonians 5:22, standing from any appearance of evil, because of some, that can be something real enticing, bringing about spirits of lust. Same thing going back to Ecclesiasticus, I brought it in chapter 37, dealing with the aspect of knowing, what's good for you, not giving yourself onto anything, that's evil, because for some, that's a stumbling block. Just like some going to the gym, gymnasium, a place where people go to work out nude. That doesn't mean you should go work out nude. You go fully clothed, but you can't control what everyone else does. Some may say, well, you just shouldn't even go to the gym then. Well, at the end of the day, there's no way of getting out of the pollution of this world while still being in this world. You can't censor this whole earth, because the aspect where you look at it, well, they're nude all the time at the beach. You're not going to go to the beach. They're nude all the time walking up and down the street, all the movements, free the nipple movement and all this other stuff. Women just wearing shawls and, things of that nature where you can see the breasts or see the nipples. So billboards and commercials and just all sorts of things to where you'd have to completely disconnect and be somewhere in a hole where it's reality versus expectation. The Most High knows the situation that we're in, not that that's an excuse, but that brings forth the understanding where you do your best to abstain and do right as I say, but you can't control what everyone else does around you. So as far as with those things, with the watching and viewing of it, it's best, in a situation, if that's a stumbling block for you, refrain. But if it's something that, you're going somewhere, that is a public place, you have a dress on, but other people, choose to wear yoga pants or things of that nature, there's nothing you can do to control those aspects. No more than, you walk outside and, brothers got tights and whatever it is, and thongs and all sorts of things on. You go down to the beach and then shoot, same thing out here, wearing pants damn nation not supposed to wear. There's nothing you can do about it. If a woman's wearing revealing clothing, things of that nature, there's nothing you can do. So except just do your part and worry about you and your family. So that's just it. I just want to make sure I dealt with that last part of the question as well. So with that, next question.
The next question is on YouTube, and it's pretty similar to what you just finished addressing on stated.
You just answered that one.
About the beach and the pool.
All
right. The next question, man. Is it possible that our souls have inhabited the bodies of heathens in another life?
That's a funny question. I've never heard anyone ask that question before. Let's go to a couple of scriptures. Let's go to Amos. Chapter 2 and verse 11.
Amos chapter 2 and verse 11. And I raised up of your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarites.
Mm-hmm.
Is it not even thus, O you children of Israel, says the Lord?
So Most High is saying that he raised up his people, the children of Israel, for prophets, right? So let's get this next scripture. Yeah, give me that one. So this one will kind of answer that question, because the Most High is in control of all the spirits. And he says right here that the children of Israel are his prophets. So let's look what this next scripture says.
You want the Corinthians 14?
Yeah, 14 and 32.
Yep. And the spirit of the prophet.
So it says, and the spirits of the prophets, and he said his prophets are the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Are subject to the prophets.
It says that same spirit is subject to the prophets. So if you are an Israelite way back when, you have that same spirit. You're going to be an Israelite at whatever, next point in time, you're going to be here on this earth again. So I can't find in the scriptures where the Most High changes in that fashion. So where someone was a righteous Israelite person at one point in time and then they show up to be a heathen. I just don't see that. But the scriptures do say that his prophets are his children, which is the people of Israel. And it says that the spirits of the prophets are going to be subject to the prophets. Y'all got anything else?
No, that's perfect.
I hope that answered your question.
Next question up.
On the next question, why do Edomites act like animals?
It's in their nature.
You want that, Isaiah?
Hebrews 12 and 16. It's in their nature. We're going to get one scripture to explain that.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 12 and verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator.
See, the fornicator, this is talking about Esau, go ahead.
Or profane person.
When you get a chance, look up what profane is. It's talking about a profane person, somebody that's foul, that's wicked, that's nasty. Go ahead.
As Esau.
As Esau. This is explaining their nature in the New Testament, in the Bible. Go ahead.
who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
See, he sold his birthright for some uncooked raw meat. That's why they act like animals. You know they get fleas too, right? They call it lice. Those are just fleas.
I was looking at something, and they were saying for the most part, only animals that have fur, get stuff like that. So they say technically he don't have hair, he has fur. Black people don't get lice.
Next question.
The next question reads, will some of us be alive when the Messiah returns, or will we all be in our spiritual bodies during his return?
So will some of us still be alive when the Messiah returns? Or will some of us be in our spiritual bodies when the Messiah returns? Right?
You got it?
You can start it off as a bunch of scriptures.
Let's go to Revelations 20. Revelations 20 and 6.
The book of Revelation, chapter 20, and verse 6. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection.
So some of us going to be taken up. Go ahead.
On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be as priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years.
So go ahead. Now let's go to verse 12.
Verse 12.
Go to verse 10. Let's go to verse 10.
Verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and forever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works.
So this is showing that when Yahushua comes, this is the judgment that the people are going to get. You're going to have some that's going to be living, some that's going to be dead. Go ahead.
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works.
Go ahead.
And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
So some are going to be living, and some are going to be dead already, and they're going to get judged. Y'all got anything else?
Get on Mark chapter 9, verse 1. And we'll get 1 Corinthians 15 and 52.
Mark 9. You said 9 and what?
9 verse 1, and get 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51 and 52.
And he said unto them, verily I say unto you, that there be some of them that stand here which shall not taste death till they have seen the kingdom of Yahweh come with power.
Right, so Christ is letting them know that there be some of those that ministering and talking to, that they weren't going to die. They weren't going to die till they see or have seen the kingdom of God come with power. So not necessarily that it was a situation where, the people there were going to live until he came, but an aspect where he's telling them, look, even though something in this present time, you will actually physically die in this time. However, it's a prophecy that some of these same people be brought back at a later time and would live and survive and see all the calamity thing that came, but will be untouched, unscathed, and survive and make it all the way up until Christ comes and we receive the kingdom as a testimony and as a witness. So as far as seeing an aspect of seeing till death, that's a situation where not that they're actually going to die in the sense of what we may believe, either being the lake of fire or them actually dying in physical death, because how else would they be able to see that kingdom? He's saying, look, they should not taste death. So what exactly is he dealing with? Get 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50, 51 to 52. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50 to 52.
Verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, neither doth corruption inherit corruption.
Inherit incorruption. So it's a situation where we're not going to enter the kingdom of the Most High in these flesh and blood bodies. That's one part of it. The other part of it is not in a flesh and blood state of mind. You have to be keeping the law, statutes, commandments, and start changing you inwardly to put on that spirit of the Most High. And then the next part, which is the key part of it, is that you're going to be changed. Your body is going to be changed. From this flesh body, this fleshly body has to die in order for that spirit to live. That spirit is going to live through the change of the new body he's going to give you. Read that in verse 51. That's why he follows up with this.
Behold, I show you mysteries. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed.
So see, he said, behold, I show you a mystery. A mystery is something that it could be peculiar. You know, it's kind of like, how does that work? I don't know, it's a mystery. You know, you're not completely sure. Or there could be some fog or some mist behind the full revealing of something. So it says, look, behold, I'll show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep. You know, to sleep is another word that's synonymous for dying or death or dead. So we won't all be dead, but we shall all be changed. So meaning, going back to like I just read in Mark chapter 9 and verse 1, it's going to be a situation where not all of us are going to be resurrected. Some of us will still be alive. But it doesn't matter if you're being resurrected or if you're still alive, you're going to be changed. Read.
We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of the eye, at the last trump.
So that's when. Read.
For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
Right. So the dead, they're going to be raised and shall be raised in an incorruptible body. But as far as those that be alive, we're going to be changed into that incorruptible body through the works that we've been doing in order to start making this flesh and blood body more spiritual. Think about like a meter, filling it up as much as we can within with that righteous spirit, and then the Most High will give the body that matches it. So, but whereas you can't receive that body that matches it if you don't first do your part in filling it up with the proper contents in order to withhold it and make sure that you can maintain that body in that form, because it can't be wicked. So, you know, that's just it as far as what I had with it. Next question.
The next question on YouTube reads, I am in a fraternity. I became knowledgeable because an Israelite of another camp had approached me at a restaurant. He told me that I must denounce the fraternity. What does the Bible say?
Anybody want to answer that?
I feel like there's two levels to this. Some frats are known for doing certain, having certain practices which are definitely unlawful. I don't know, which one you're with or what they have you do, but if that's just something you're doing to get through school, it's really no different. If you being a part of a job somewhere and you say, hey, I work for this company, you can't really denounce the company you work for if they don't have you doing nothing wicked. But if they have you doing, unrighteous things, and that's definitely something you should try to separate yourself from. If you know you're an Israelite, then, obviously you shouldn't be out here claiming that you're, of the Greekish fashion. So, I feel like if something like this, it kind of just all depends.
Tom, you're all correct. Did you have something you wanted to add, or you want to be
I wanted to get that scripture, where it talks about Jason, he brought his people into the Greekish fashion.
Tom. No, that's scripture. You want me to start your piggyback? Or you want to start my piggyback off of you?
No, go ahead.
All right. So similar, just like Yashima was saying, it's a situation. I wanted to read the definition. Definition of fraternity. It says 1, group of people associated or formally organized for a common purpose, interest, or pleasure. So judging by that definition, it's fine as long as, like the brother was saying, you're not doing anything that's against the laws of the Most High. You know, nothing wrong being part of a group. You be part of the student body or, you know, whatever it is, but are you going against the laws of the Most High? Now, the part that you have to keep in mind is, in this definition from Merriam-Webster's, it's 1, but point C. It says a men's student organization formed chiefly for social purposes, having secret rites, and the name consisting of Greek letters. So why that? Because when you deal with the aspect of when people pledge, you know, to be a Greek, you know, dealing with those aspects, that's where now you're starting to go off into a form or fashion that the scriptures speak against. So that's where, like similar as I was saying, get 2 Maccabees chapter 4. 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and get verse 9 and 10, because this is part of the problem with our people, not necessarily saying you per se, but one of the things that our people fell into. Before you get 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 9, 10, and 11, I want a precursor, which is 1 Maccabees chapter 1. And we'll come right back to that. Get 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and read verse 11.
1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
In those days, what days are we talking about? Read verse 10.
And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
The kingdom of the who?
Greeks.
We're dealing with the kingdom of the Greeks. So in the time of the kingdom of the Greeks, read.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Righteous men?
Wicked men.
There went out wicked men of Israel who went against the law, statute, commandments, and did what? Read.
Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
So they wanted to make oaths and agreements with the heathen. To do what? Read verse 13.
Then certain of the people were so forward herein, that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Who gave them permission to follow the customs and the ways of the heathen, of the nations. In this case, Esau, the so-called white man. Read on. Verse 14.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
Now, go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 4, and now read verse 9 through 10.
2 Maccabees 4 and 9. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise, and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen.
And that's always it. They always want to try to get the youth to train them up in the fashions or the ways or styles of everything it is that they do. Read.
And to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians.
Antiochians. Why? Because as we just read, Antiochus, he was one of the rulers of the Greeks. So now a situation where that's why I want to name them Jerusalem, name of Antiochians. So no different than how they try to do with not only calling you an American, but you pledging to be Greek. You pledging to be a part of the heathen, a part of their customs, their ideology, their fashions. Read on.
Which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
And that's what's happened. Our people are being brought due to the aspects of these fraternities that pledge Greeks and things of that nature, Alpha, Psi, and just so on and so forth. That's what's going on. So it's an aspect where the Most High, would he be for that or against that? And as far as when we read according to scriptures and other places, the Most High is against that aspect of our people pledging to partake in Greek fashion in that particular life. So that's something where, according to Scripture, I would adjure for you not to do because of those reasons. All right.
Also, too, if you know anything about the Divine Nine, have you ever heard of the Pan-Hellenic Council, which is also ran by white folks? All they doing is, those are y'all handlers, just like the Masons. They said a black Mason could never become a Shriner, but they're under these white folks that are controlling and ruling them, just like the NAACP. That was started by white Masons who control black folks. That's all it is an and then too, another thing that goes along with the pledging and becoming a Greek, the Bible says don't show favoritism, right? In the Greek community, let's say if me being a qualified man to go get a job, and there's one of your lifetime brotherhood brothers that's in position to give you that job because I'm qualified and you're not qualified, he will show favoritism and give you that job, which that happens a lot. And how I know this, because I was around Greek fraternities and sororities, and I'm not gonna go into the rest of it, but I know some Eastern Stars and Masons and all of that. So yes, I would not pledge, or I would encourage you to get out of that and no longer follow the ways of the Greeks. Because let me ask you this, also, do any of y'all speak Greek? You dance around, you clap, you sing, you do your rituals, and don't nobody speak Greek.
Right, so it's just one of those things where, with it, not saying, everything lottie-dottie, with these things are bad or negative, but there's key elements in it that make it wrong in the eyes of the Most High, because of course, some people, they, may take some of these things to heart, and just deal with, it can deal, you can have brotherhood, you can have family, you have sisterhood, no different than when you deal with same ways of other customs, the heathen when it comes down to like Valentine's Day and, Halloween and Christmas. Yeah, you can have family. Yeah, you can have gift giving and things of that nature, which are, family is good. Gift giving is good. But the manner in which it's being done and orchestrated is against the laws of the Most High. And the other things associated with it are against the laws of the Most High. So have brotherhood or sisterhood, but outside of that fashion and in another fashion, it doesn't conflict with things that the Most High does not approve of. So
let's get the scripture, Leviticus 19:17, because also what comes along with the sororities and the fraternities, they have hazing, which you got your own sisters, the people of your own, these supposed to be people of your family that you're gonna grow with and live with, but they beating you, hazing you, causing hurt and harm to you. That should never happen in an organization, which True Nation Israelite Congregation, we don't do any of those things to our brothers and sisters. So let's read this. 19:15, right quick. Leviticus 19:15, let's keep that. 19:17. Just one scripture.
Book of Leviticus, chapter 19, and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart.
It said, don't hate him in your heart. I should not have to be beaten by you to prove that I love you and I want to be a part of your organization, when we already are the same nation. Go ahead.
Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
So you're supposed to correct your neighbor and not suffer sin upon them. Some of the things that goes on in hazing, like some people even die being hazed. They die trying to be a part of something that they so much yearn for. When that should never happen.
Next question.
The next one is from YouTube. It's a question/statement, which says, could you find the name of the creator in the Bible? And then they reference I-E, Asi, I-E, I-Y-E, A-S-E, I-Y-E, and say, remember his name, life, eternal life. And they also mention the fact that the name of the creator is in the book of Genesis in the beginning.
Yeah, so the name of the Most High is found all throughout the scriptures. It's found within his people. Let's go to Exodus chapter 6 and verse 3.
And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of Yahweh Almighty. But by my name Jehovah was I not known.
So here you have an instance of the Most High stating his name. And of course, we know that the scriptures have been translated, and what we have is the Tetragrammaton. They translated it into English for us. So you have Jehovah, right? Go to Isaiah chapter 26 and 4. Some people say Yahweh, Jehovah, Yahuwah. All these are ways of saying the Most High's name, but we of course know that it's Yahweh.
Isaiah 26 and 4. Verse 4. Trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength.
So here we have another instance of the Most High's name being said. Go to Psalm chapter 68, verse 4.
Psalms chapter 68 and verse 4. Sing unto God, sing praises to his name.
What's his name?
Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name Jah.
By his name Jah, or Yah, short for Yahweh. Go to 2 Chronicles 7 and 14. Because as I stated earlier, his name is also in his children.
Second Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 14. If my people, which are called by my name.
So hold on, he said, my people, which are called by my name. One of the sons of Israel, his name is Judah. In the Hebrew, is pronounced Yahweh. Literally, Most High's name being in his people. So, like I said, there's tons of examples in the scriptures where you see the Most High's name. And then also, too, there's a lot of instances where you'll see Lord in all capital letters, Lord. If you were to look into the Strong's Concordance, you look up the Hebrew word, Hebrew 3068, you'll also find that there as well.
Also, too, let's Genesis 22 and 14. Because Abraham knew the Most High's name.
Indeed. Genesis chapter 22 and verse 14. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh.
Which is means Yahweh will provide or Yahweh will see. So Abraham knew his name.
It's all good. Next question.
The next question reads, a few camps say that Eve slept with Satan. Do the scriptures support this claim?
No. Did they, he didn't leave any reference scriptures, he just put the statement?
No scriptures provided.
The book of Isaiah.
Now let me ask you a question on that. If Eve slept with Satan, wouldn't that be adultery? She would have been put to death before Adam even had a chance to get with her. Go ahead.
She did get put to death.
Isaiah chapter 8, verse 20.
Isaiah chapter 8 and verse 20. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is according to this word,
Read.
It is because there is no light in them.
Right. The light being the law. So that's to speak according to this word. So many times those story things of that nature are taken from pseudepigraphical books that have embellished writings, embellishment aspects that you don't read these things in the scriptures, but in the pseudepigraphical books, they're embellished with added additions of stories, pretty much details on things that the Bible does not give weight to, which becomes intriguing for some because it seems like, the lost books of Adam. you know, so which gives more time and account of what all happened, you know. Adam had another wife, you know, just different things of nature of that the Bible doesn't give or segue into. So with those things, it's an answer where Scripture says, belong to the testimony, they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. So, you know, these things that to be made, or not only people try to make them, but that to be discovered, found out, searched out, as far as whether or not these things are sound doctrine in nature. Can all of these things be fully substantiated by what we have here in this codex, this book or collection of books known as the Bible? So, and if it can't, then it's an aspect where, whether say, well, that's good to read for entertainment, enjoyment, satire, but as far as to take it as the inspired word of the Most High, well, we can't do so. You know, we can't stand behind it.
And just real quick, go to Titus 1:14. Because that's actually a big problem within the nation. You have a lot of our people who, you know, they probably don't know any better starting off, but they're introduced to these other books, these pseudo picker for books. And like the brother said, you know, it's intriguing because you find things and statements, you know, in those books that you won't find here in the Bible. And it seems like, you know, these are the lost books or these are the ones that's missing. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Read that for me.
Not giving heed to Jewish fables.
So we can't be giving heed to Jewish fables. Like the brother said, if you want to read it just to have knowledge about something so you can answer questions if someone might have it, that's fine. But when you start taking what these other books are saying as law and as fact, you know, that's a problem when it's not, you know, scriptural. Go ahead.
And commandments of men.
So not giving heed to Jewish fables or the commandments of men. Go ahead.
That turn from the truth.
That turn from the truth. So we always gotta make sure that we're keeping things lawful and keeping it through the filter of what we have here, which is the scriptures.
Now let's get the law on that. Deuteronomy 22 and verse 23.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 23. If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband,
which Eve was, go ahead,
and a man find her in the city and lie with her.
So they saying the serpent lay with Eve, go ahead.
Then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city.
Why would they be both brought out to the gate of the city? Because Eve was specifically made and created for Adam. Go ahead.
And ye shall stone them with stones that they die.
So Eve would have got put to death, and we would have another forerunner. So, man, chalk that lie up. Yeah, stay away from the other books.
Next question.
Next question. Where can I find the duties of a husband in the Bible? That's the question.
Deuteronomy 25. Deuteronomy 25 and verse 5.
Deuteronomy.
Oh, go ahead.
Chapter 25 and verse 5. If brethren dwell together, one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him the wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her.
So that's the duty of a brother, duty to the brother.
Go to
Ecclesiastes 12 and 13 on that one?
Nah, he's talking about like in life, what's the duty of a man?
What's the duty of a husband? What's the responsibilities of a husband unto the wife?
Go to 1 Timothy 5 and 8. So there's no, cookie cutter man. There's not a specific set of things that the man is supposed to do. It doesn't say, hey, every man needs to make sure he's a gardener. Every man doesn't need to be a hunter, but the scriptures do say this, and this is pretty much the understanding of what a husband is supposed to be in his house and to his wife. Go ahead.
1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. But if any provide not for his own.
So if any man provide not for his own. So, first and foremost, the man is the provider. Okay, kind. So first and foremost, the man, he is the provider. He's expected to be out there, providing for his family. He's the one that needs to mainly be working, whatever that, line of duty may be, making sure that his family is okay and taken care of, making sure that they have a roof over their head, making sure that they have food to eat and clothes to put on their back. Go ahead.
They provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house.
So that was a big thing. He says, especially for those of his own house. So that's the duty of a man in the relationship, being in with a woman. Go ahead.
He had denied the faith, and it's worse than an infidel.
So you can see how big of a deal that is within our culture, within our people, within our nation. Not like what you see today. You see a lot of, you see the opposite. You see where the woman is more so taking on this role, and now the man, they're starting to be the lazy ones, the couch potatoes. But that's the role of a man. He's supposed to be the primary provider. Did y'all have something else that you want to go into that? Maybe give more detail?
Yeah, let's get that in Exodus 21 and verse 10, which shows that the man is the provider. And also don't just get stuck there that the man is the sole provider, because when you go to Proverbs 31 and 10, you will see that the woman worked also. But read that.
21 and 10.
Yeah, because this shows that a man, he has one wife, but go ahead.
Exodus chapter 21 and verse 10. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So
he's supposed to keep up the first wife in the same fashion. Go ahead.
And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money.
So this is obviously a courting period where the woman was with the man and they were figuring out to see if he can take care of this woman. So he was still supposed to take care of the first woman, and her duty and her raiment, everything that he had to provide for her was not supposed to diminish. So if he couldn't do that, then what? Read verse 11 again.
Verse 11, and if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go out free without money.
So now, okay, I couldn't take care of the second wife, so now she can go on about her business because I didn't have enough means to take care of her. So that shows you that the man is the provider.
Right. Now, once again, given, that's no consummation done, like the brother said, betrothal arrangement, things of that nature, weighing the cost. So, but as far as those are the basics, and the scriptures don't really go into great detail with the aspect of the duty of the husband. It keeps it very simple. We just read, man has to provide. When you're dealing with provide, there's many sub-definitions of provide or how one can provide. So one of the aspects is, get First Peter. Yeah, and get First Peter. And get First Peter chapter 3 and verse 7.
1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
According to what?
According to knowledge.
According to knowledge. That's the key thing of how a man is ought to deal with his wife. So one of the key things for the man is to teach his wife, provide knowledge and understanding for his wife. Let's back that up. Get 1 Timothy chapter 2 and read verse 11 and 12.
1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence.
Right, because she would have to learn from that particular man. That's the situation. You shouldn't be in arguing, debating. Listen unto your head. Do as your head is instructing you, because he's the one that's teaching you how he needs you to go about and order the household as you're now joined unto him to be his particular help. So that's one of the key things. Get also too, Get Ezekiel 34 and 31.
34, 31.
Get I want to follow with 1 Corinthians as well.
Ezekiel 34 and 31. And ye my flock, the flock of my pasture are men.
Right, because the Most High keep dealing with his men. And when the men's receiving it, he's supposed to be the follower of Christ. He then takes it unto the woman. No different than when you did in the beginning with get 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and get verse 33 and 34, and then we're gonna go to the book of Genesis. No different from the beginning.
1 Corinthians 14, verse 33. For Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace.
Now, let's see why he's saying it. Read on.
As in all churches of the saints.
Read.
Let your women keep silence in the churches.
So, let your women keep silence in the churches. So, this is in order to maintain that aspect of order. Why? Because you have situations when certain things arise. You have women who put themselves in a situation to debate more so the aspects of the word, and more so certain things are more conflicting to where she's more so willing to voice her differences in a way that isn't necessarily comely or in an aspect of edifying in the situation. So that's when things get to that point. That's why it says, let her learn in silence and subjection. And then in the situation, read on.
For it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law.
Right, obedience unto their particular head. You know, their husbands will teach them. Read on.
And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home.
Right, in order to maintain order. You know, hey, you don't understand? Ask your husband at home. You know, ask the thing of the day. This isn't the place. One, you know, the class isn't the place for debate, period. You're supposed to be learning and receiving instruction, but it's definitely not the place for the woman to put herself in a situation to debate, argue, you know, deal back and forth, self-authority over man, things of that nature. So that's where it's a higher penalty, you know. Without all that, read on.
For it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church.
Right. So now, let's go back and let's get Genesis chapter 2. Let's read Genesis chapter 2. And let's read verse 9.
Genesis chapter 2 and 9. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Jump down and read verse 16.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat,
Read verse 17.
but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it.
Right. So now these things were told unto Adam. But notice, if you skip down and read verse 20.
Verse 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle.
Actually, read verse 18. We just read right down underneath there. Read 18.
And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone.
Because an aspect where Eve was not there yet. So when Adam was receiving these instructions, his wife was not there. She had not yet been given unto Adam. So now read Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. 1 and 2.
Genesis 3 and 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden.
Read on verse 3.
But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, yes, lest ye die.
Now, how did Eve know that? Because she wasn't there. She didn't receive that instruction. She knew that because of the teachings of her husband, of her head. So likewise, you know, within the Bible, that's one of the main things. The man is to provide knowledge, wisdom, and instruction and guidance for the woman. Yeah, she was grown, you know, things of that nature. Just like, hey, woman today, yeah, grown, marry a grown woman. You know, be against the law to marry a child. But women see that and think, well, I'm grown. I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Well, yes, you do, according to the Most High. That's order. That doesn't mean a woman can't, have aspects of knowledge and things that the man may not know. But it's a situation where it is the man's place, where is the woman's place. And one of the number one things for that man to provide that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and guidance unto the woman, as well as, and in addition to providing the financial substance unto the household and unto the woman and unto the children that he bears. That's the other part that he's supposed to provide. So those two things, the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, the finances, the stability, are the main things that man, as far as a husband is concerned, that duty that he's supposed to fulfill. As far as many of the other things in between then are aspects of being neither here nor there, and are going to differ based upon how each man decides to run his kingdom. So, which there's no laws for. If a man decides that, hey, I give my wife full reign over all aspects of finance, that's that man's choice. Another man says, well, I don't give my wife full reign over, I give her reign over one account. That's that man's choice. Or one bill. That's that man's choice. Or no bills. That is that man's choice, and is going to be dictated by how he chooses to run his kingdom. And also, too, how that wife is and what characteristics she may have or that she may lack to warrant whether or not she's even suitable in order to be given such tasks, or that she may not even have the skills or abilities to do such tasks. So those things will have variables as well, based upon whoever it is that man decides to take into his life and marry, or whoever that sister chooses to take on as a husband and where he's at. So those are just other things to take into consideration. So with that, we can go on to the next question. Unless brother have something else.
Nope. Next question.
Con, 1 second.
Oh, man, while you wait on that, I just want to mention, because I had your brother go to Exodus 21:10. I just want to mention that a man and a woman can build together, because Jacob, he went to Laban, his uncle, and he didn't have anything when he acquired both of his wives. So please don't get that twisted. That, oh man, he can't provide for you, so you don't have to be with him. If y'all come together and y'all agree to build together, that can't happen. You can read that in Genesis 29. How Jacob acquired all his wealth.
Next question on YouTube. Black and Latina women are beautiful by nature. With that being said, how are we to not look at them and notice their beauty?
You can look at a woman and notice the beauty. There's not a problem with looking at someone and beholding a beautiful brother or a beautiful or handsome sister. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I get Absalom mixed up in my head.
That happened in 2019,
man, so you got a handsome queen and a beautiful king, but nevertheless, yeah, you can look, at a sister and see if she's beautiful, or look at a brother and see that he's handsome. So there is a few accounts of those. You have a situation with Absalom. You also have a situation where, Scripture deal, you see a beautiful woman amongst the captives. So you have to be able to acknowledge, some sort of aspect of beauty. Moses doesn't have a problem with that. No different than, with David. When he did his transgression, Moses was saying, look, you desire more wives, I would have given you more wives. You didn't have to look at another sister wife, but the problem that people deal with the aspect of beauty is dealing with situations like Christ says, you lust after the woman, commit adultery with her in your heart. Remember, situation where the sister's not married is not adultery. The sister's not married. But a situation where the sister is married, you're lusting after her brother's wife, things of that nature. Now, you're putting yourself in a place to commit adultery. That's what he's dealing with, because if that lust kindles of the fire and flame gets too strong, you're going to put yourself in a place to fall and to commit that particular sin or transgression. So it's a situation not that you just looking at it, brother and sister, is, the seeing that, oh, that brother is, handsome, but that sister is, beautiful. No, it deals with how you process, how you dealing with it. What spirit are you in? Is that all that your mind is set on? So I'm just gonna say that. Yeah, I'm just gonna say that brothers get their particular scriptures that they want to get.
Yeah, but you already answered it. I'm just gonna get the scripture that just pretty much sums up what the brother was saying. The book of Sirach, chapter 9 and verse 5. And really verses 5 through 9 really goes into detail what he was talking about, but the gist of it is verse 5, which we're going to read right now.
Sirach, chapter 9 and verse 5. Gaze not on the maid, that thou fall not by those things that are precious in her.
So it's not saying that you can't look at somebody because they're beautiful, but it's saying the mindset that you have while doing that thing. It says, gaze not on the maid that thou fall. So now you're going into the realms of wickedness and sin. It says that thou fall not by those things that are precious in her. So, lusting after the woman to where, she might be married and now you're doing everything you can to get with her, or, just doing things completely out of order. That's what it's dealing with. But it's not an issue with looking at someone's beauty.
And speaking of Jacob, which I mentioned, let's get that. Because Jacob saw his cousin and was like, man, she's beautiful. Let's go to Genesis 29. Because the Bible talks about beautiful people. Genesis 29 and verse 17.
Genesis chapter 29 and verse 17. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored.
So the scripture gives you an instance of these sisters being beautiful. And go ahead, read verse 19.
And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me.
So Jacob saw that these women were beautiful, and he wanted Rachel over Leah.
Next question.
One moment.
Hey, while you getting that, I'm just kind of add to that real quick. That the brother saying, because even then, in that same chapter, you do get, another aspect, like it says in verse 8, we'll turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman, and look not upon another's beauty, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. For it was love is kindled the fire. So, everything, it's always a balance that the Most High gives. The reason why, he says things of that nature is to get the flip side of those things. So a situation where, when he says turn away thine eye, from a beautiful woman, is an aspect where don't get so caught up, in the beauty that's all that you're seeing, that's all that you're looking at. Why did he say? He clarifies in the latter end of the particular verse. He says, for many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. So for herewith, love is kindled as a fire. You get so caught up in the beauty that now you put yourself in a situation where you're susceptible to being deceived, being used, things of that nature, and sisters put themselves in the same situation too. You get so caught up in how handsome the brother is, you don't look at the aspects where the brother's character messed up, or so many red flags going on with his dealings, his mannerisms, that you put yourself in a very negative situation. So that's like it also said in Proverbs chapter 31, that when charm is deceitful, beauty is vain. So dealing with the aspects of those things that, you see scripts that deal with, brothers seeing the beauty, that's not a problem, but you also need to balance with, don't put yourself in a situation where you're so caught up in the beauty, you're not looking at where the relationship as a whole is headed, because you're not seeing where this particular person you're interested in, where they're coming from. So just kind of keep those things in mind. All right, you got that next question?
49.
You got the next question up?
The next question on YouTube reads, if a woman was married to someone and they are not married anymore, and they both divorce and both remarry, what then?
You got a complicated order on line 15. that is a catch-22, the part that kind of goes with the actual, this isn't really marriage counseling, but that's a complicated order. That's a mouthful. So as far as, I'll just keep it simple. Give Matthew.
Matthew 19.
Yep. Let's get Matthew chapter 19 and read verse 3.
The Pharisees also came unto meet him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause?
Right. So they already knew, but it's dealing with a situation of divorce. That's what it's dealing with. That's what the question is around. Go down and read verse 9.
And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication.
So a situation where if you're trying to divorce this sister, except it be for a situation of fornication, meaning an aspect where anything outside of what consummates a marriage, which is vaginal sex, that's fornication. So if the sister is oral sex, that's fornication. Anal sex, that's fornication. That's for anything, outside of those realms. That's for she over there masturbating with another man, whatever it is, those are all aspects of fondness. Those are all aspects of fornication. So read on.
And shall marry another, committeth adultery.
Right.
And whosoever
Go on.
and whosoever marrieth her which is put away doth commit adultery.
Right. So a situation where you just got into an argument, I don't like you, I hate you, we divorced. That's not a divorce according to the laws of the Most High. You're still bound by law. You're still married. Situation where brother moves somewhere else, sister moves somewhere else, different state, distance don't matter. You're still married. Situation where, the man took on, an additional wife lawfully, then, you don't like it, still a situation where you're still married. So now, if there's a situation where, like it deals with, and shall marry another, commit adultery, whoso married her, which is put away, does commit adultery, because that sister believes, he divorced me, we're done, I'm gonna marry so-and-so, in a situation where you're now committing adultery. So you're subject unto the death penalty. Whether or not the Most High will forgive you or put you to death, that's on your other works, and that's up to the Most High. I can't put myself in the stead to determine what your individual judgment will be, but that's according to the law. So I have to do what thus said the Lord, according to the law. So that is it as far as to keep it simple. That's what the Most High said, that's what Christ said regarding marriage.
Next question.
Next question. According to the scripture, is it lawful to marry a cousin? Can you marry a first cousin, or must it be a second cousin if so?
According to scriptures, yes, you can marry your cousin. That's what us as a nation, that's what we technically are. And this brother right here to my right, to the next brother, to the brothers to the front of me, we're all cousins. Just can't marry brother or sister, but yes, that's when we look at same thing. Sorry, Jacob and Larry, Rachel, this was all family members. These were cousins.
Also Noah and his sons, how they repopulated the earth as well.
Right. They were all cousins.
And let's show the instance. Let's go to Genesis 29. 29 and verse 10.
Genesis 29 and verse 10. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban.
So Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban. We're gonna find out who Laban was to Rachel, to Jacob. Go ahead.
His mother's brother.
So it was his mother's brother. Go ahead.
And the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother.
So now let's see what happened between Jacob, Laban, and his cousin. Let's go to verse 17.
Verse 17. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored.
As we read earlier, go ahead.
And Jacob loved Rachel.
So Jacob loved his cousin, go ahead.
And said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter.
So he served 7 years for his cousin, go ahead.
And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me.
So here you have the uncle giving away his daughter to his nephew, which the Rachel and Jacob were cousins. Let's go to Leviticus 18 right quick.
Yeah.
To show that it can't be sisters and brothers. They can't marry, but the cousins is completely lawful, which the brother mentioned earlier. That's how our nation was birthed, through cousins marrying cousins, as well as polygyny. And it's a beautiful thing because we're here today. Let's go to Leviticus 18:1.
I remember that Lilo and Stitch episode we called all the other Stitch's cousins. Like that's how we are. His cousin. That's
It just took me back with that one, man.
Man, that was a long time ago.
I ain't seen my show.
For those that can't relate.
Leviticus 18 and verse 6.
None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him.
So were the cousins near kin? Yes, they were. But now it's going to be specific in which kinsman is talking about. Go ahead.
To uncover their nakedness, I am the Lord. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, thou shalt not uncover. She is thy mother, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness.
Go to verse 9. Jump down to verse 9. Excuse me.
The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father.
So you can't marry your sister or your brother. That's incest. Go ahead.
The daughter of thy father or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover.
So direct family members in the same household are not to be marrying each other or having sex with each other. But as we read in Genesis 29, cousins can marry, which that's how our nation was birthed, and we are here today. My cousins. Yep. All praise to the Most High.
God. Yeah, that was it. You know, as far as with all the questions for this evening, appreciate all those that tuned in, watch. Most High willing, you're edified. We just ask that you continue, like, subscribe, share the videos, help get the word out to the people. Because these works are things that we do not for our own vain glory, but we do, for the Most High and for the people. So in order to help edify all Israel. So we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in. All praise to the Most High. With that, we say shalom.
Shalom.